أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Our 21st lesson in our series on learning to read the Holy Quran will cover the Alif Laam. By the Alif Laam, we mean this word that we see frequently in the Quran. Of course, it's an Alif and then a Lam. Now this Alif Lam is always at the beginning of a word. It's never in the middle of a word, this specific Alif Lam. Sometimes you might find an Alif and a Lam in the middle of a word, but we mean this word, Al, formed by this Alif and Lam, comes at the beginning of a word. And the Alif and Alif Lam is Hamza al-Wasl. So our previous lesson covered Hamza al-Wasl. So all the rules that apply to the Hamza al-Wasl by itself will also apply to the Alif in Alif Lam. So for example, if we start reading from the Alif and Alif Lam, we will pronounce this Alif. But if we do not start reading from the Alif and Alif Lam, then the Alif and Alif Lam is silent. So the way that we know this is in the prints of the Quran, you will see that if the Alif in the Alif Lam does not have a sakin, then it is silent. If it has the sakin, we'll pronounce the Lam. If it does not have a sakin, then the next letter will have a shad, as we'll see in the examples to follow. So for example, first, we see that the Alif Lam is always at the beginning of a word. So we have here Alif, Lam, Ha, Mim, Dal. So this Alif Lam is at the beginning of the word. And now since this Alif here is the first letter that we are reading, remember we said this is Hamza al-Wasl. Since this Alif is the first Alif that we're reading, we're going to pronounce it. And we're going to pronounce it as if it has a Fatha. So this Alif with Fatha and this Lam with Sakin, together we'll say Al. Now also remember that whenever you have the Alif Lam, whenever you pronounce this Alif, it will always be read with a Fatha. In other circumstances, in other situations, the Hamza al-Wasl, it may be read with a Dhamma or a Kasra. But when it comes to the Alif Lam, when we pronounce this Alif, it is always pronounced with a Fatha. So we say Al. We always say Al. We never say Il or Ul. We always say Al. Then we have this Ha with Fatha, gets joined with this Mim and Sakin. So it's Ham, and then Dal with Dhamma is Do. So we read this as Alhamdu. Like in Surah Al-Fatiha, we say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The second verse we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So now on to our next example. And as we said, this Alif and Alif Lam is Hamza al-Wasl. So here, when this Alif is the first letter, we pronounce it, we say Alhamdu. But here, we have this Alif Lam again in red. This Alif is not the first letter that we're reciting, so this Alif is silent. So now, this was one of the examples we went over last night as well. Ra with Fatha will be joined with this Ba that has Shad. And then the Ba also has a Kasra. And the Kasra portion, the vowel portion, will get connected to this Lam with Sakin. And we're going to skip this Alif. It's silent. We say Rabbil. You see? We say Bil. And this Alif is silent. We don't pronounce it. Rabbil. Ayn with this Mad of Alif is A. Lam and Fatha is La. Mim with Kasra and Ya is Mi. Noon with Fatha is Na. We say, read it as Rabbil Alameen. Another example. So here we have the Alif Lam showing up twice. There's the Alif Lam here in the first word, before the first word, and then Alif Lam before the second word. So what's going to happen here is that since the Alif in this first Alif Lam, this one is the first letter, we're going to pronounce it. But this one, the second one, since it's in the middle of a word, it's not the first letter we're pronouncing, the second one is going to be silent. So how do we pronounce this? Now, as we said, the Alif and Alif Lam is always pronounced with a Fatha when we actually pronounce it. Of course, when it's silent, it has no vowel. So we say, and now, another point to mention here is that you see this Lam, it doesn't have a Sakin on it. So the Lam is also silent. And it's the same situation with the second alif lam. The lam does not have a sakin on it, so the lam is silent. So we're going to connect this alif here with this ra that has shad. And then the ra has a fatha, and then the ha after it has a sakin. So first we have to connect this alif with the ra. We say ar, ar, and then the ra has to connect with the ha to say rah. So we say ar-rah, ar-rah, and then the meme has the mad of alif. We say ma. This noon has kasra, so we read it ne. And then this alif is silent. The lam that has no sakin, this is also silent. And then this ra has shad, so we connect this noon with this ra here. We connect these two. We completely skip the alif lam. Both the alif and the lam are silent. So we say nirra. Then there's ha with kasra and ya, so we say hi, and then the meme has kasra, so we read it as me. So let's read from the beginning. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. So remember, this first one is pronounced because the first letter, this first alif and alif lam, but the second alif and alif lam is not pronounced, it's silent because it's not the first letter. And the lam in both instances is silent because neither one of them has a sakin. So on to our next example. Here we have an alif lam once again, which is not at the beginning. And this lam here does not have a sakin. So this alif and this lam are both silent. So how do we read this? Meme with this mad of alif is ma, lam with kasra is le, kaf with kasra is ke, ma le ke. Then we have ya with fatha and waw with sakin. So we read these two together as yaw. Then the meme has a kasra, and then this dal here has shad. So we have to connect this meme with this dal, and we skip both the alif and lam because they're silent. So we say mid, and then this dal has kasra and ya, so it's read as D, but remember we have to continue the sound of the dal without stopping. We say mid-D, and then noon with kasra is ne. So how do we read all of it? We say Maliki yawmiddin. Maliki yawmiddin. So on to our next example. Now here, once again, we have the alif lam showing up twice. But we also have a hamza al-wasl here at the beginning. So this is hamza al-wasl here. And in this instance, we're going to read this hamza al-wasl with the kasra. In another lesson, we'll explain when we read it with kasra, one with dhamma, one with fatha. That'll be another lesson. But for now, just know that you read this hamza al-wasl with the kasra, and then the alif lams. This alif lam are both silent. The alif is silent because it's not the first letter. The lam is silent because it has no sakin. Now for the second one, the alif is silent because it's not the first letter we're reading, it's hamza al-wasl. But the lam has a sakin, so we will pronounce this lam. So here we go, we'll read from the beginning. We say, again, we pronounce this with the kasra, we say, this ha has a sakin, so we connect with this alif. Dal with kasra is de. Now this noon has a fatha and the alif. So normally we would pronounce this as na with a long vowel. So one rule we're going to be introduced to right now is that whenever we have a long vowel such as this, na, and then it's followed, of course we're going to skip the alif and lam because they're silent. Then it's followed by a letter that has either a shad or a sakin. Then what happens is that we do not pronounce the long vowel, we pronounce just the fatha. We pronounce the short vowel. So we connect this noon with its short vowel fatha with this sad that has shad. We say nas. We don't say ihdinas. We say ihdinas. And then the sad has a kasra. So we say nas. The noon connects with sad, nas, and then the sad has kasra, say, but of course it has shad. We say nas. The ra has the mad with alif, so we say ra. Ta has fatha, and now this alif is silent, but this lam has sakin, so we connect this ta with this lam. We say tal. Mim has dhamma, sin has sakin, so we read them together as mus. Ta with fatha is ta. Qaf with kasra and ya is qi. Mim with fatha is ma. Now how do we read all of it? We say اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. One more time. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. On to our next example. So we're going to read the next few a little bit quickly. So here we have ghain with fatha and ya is ghay. Ra has kasra, and here we have the alif lam, and so far you know that this alif will be silent. The lam has sakin, so we read the lam and we connect it with this ra. Ril. Mim has fatha, ghain has sakin, so we read them together as magh. Dad has dhamma and waw, so we say bu. Ba has kasra, it's read as bi. Ain has fatha, read as a. Lam has fatha and ya, so it's read as lay. And of course, there's a sakin on the ya, that's why we say lay. The ha has kasra, mim has sakin, so we read it as him. So let's read it all from the beginning. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim. One more time. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Next example. Now here we have the name of Allah. Whenever we read the name of Allah and we start from it, we read the alif in the name of Allah with a fatha. And the mad in this is pronounced full, meaning we say Allah. So we say Allah, and this first lam is silent. The second lam has shut, so we say Allah. This is ha with dhamma, we say hu. Then this alif is silent, the lam is silent, we don't see a sakin on it. Then we have sad with shad. So this sad with the shad will connect with this ha, and the sad has a fatha, so we say hussa. Mim has fatha, so it's ma. Dal with dhamma is du. So we read it from the beginning. Allahu samadu. Again, Allahu samadu. So on to our next example. Now, this last example will set us up for another lesson, and that is that when we see this alif lam, you see this alif lam here, alif is silent, the lam is silent because there's no sakin on it. But one thing you'll notice is that whenever you have the alif lam and the lam doesn't have a sakin, the next letter always has a shad. And then we see this next example here. We have the alif that's silent, the lam with sakin, and the next letter does not have a shad. So there are certain letters of the alphabet that when they follow the alif lam, they will carry a shad. And there are certain letters of the alphabet that when they follow the alif lam, they will not have a shad. The lam in alif lam will be pronounced with sakin, and the letter will have a vowel on it. But for the other letters, the lam will be silent, and the letter will have a shad like you see here. So we read this as, let's try to read it without explaining all of the letters and vowel markings and try to follow along. We'll read slowly at first and then we'll read it a little quickly. So say wa, sakha, rasham, sa, wal, qamara. Again a little faster. وَسَخَّرَ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ. And now a little bit faster again. وَسَخَّرَ الشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ. So those letters that get a shad, that carry a shad when they follow the alif lam, when they come after the alif lam, those are called shamsi letters. Shams means sun, so they're called the sun letters. And the ones that do not get a shad and the lam is pronounced, those are called qamari letters. I'm sorry, shams means sun, of course, and qamar means moon. So there's the sun letters and the moon letters, and we'll go over this in another lesson, inshallah. This is the end of our lesson for tonight.